Welcome to the Chronically Well podcast, where we have real conversations with community that need to be heard. On this episode, you will hear from Dominique. Dominique has been living with diabetes for 20 years, diagnosed at the age of 7. No one in her family knew what diabetic symptoms were, as she remembers getting sick and being lethargic. Her grandmom told her mom to not wait and to take her to the hospital. When she got to the hospital and they withdrew blood, little Dom fainted. Her blood sugar was 825. Even at the age of 7, she wanted to be the leader in her management, and this included giving her own insulin. The only time she didn't like diabetes is when she would have a low. Her mom loves telling the story of how she would get hostile and tell everyone to leave her alone and that she would handle it on her own. In middle school, having to now disclose her diabetes to other teachers, she felt as though they tried to coddle her by saying she couldn't do certain things. In high school, she learned that her nurse had type 1 diabetes and that the nurse's daughter also had type 1 diabetes. Before then, she knew of no one her age with diabetes. Dom felt as though she was navigating it all alone. While in college, diabetes did have some negative impact and consequences on herself. She feels as though she neglected her health care during those times. She got sick a lot of times in college, but her roommates were always there and really held it down. During those times, she never had an issue taking insulin. The only issue was checking her blood sugar. At 20 and completing college, she recalls fighting with pharmaceutical companies while figuring out life as an independent adult. In 2023, she found out that her kidneys were failing. Doctors didn't mention to her about her creatinine levels being off during routine blood work. One day she went to the ER complaining of chest pain and breathing issues, and they noticed her creatinine levels were elevated and actually asked her if she was on dialysis. That March 2023, she was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Not once did she ask anyone in her family for a kidney, but everyone lined up to get tested. She never even started dialysis. She fought for those 4 months to avoid dialysis. A few months later, she received a kidney transplant from her sister cousin. Recently, Dom celebrated her 1-year transplant anniversary. Diagnosed with chronic kidney disease in March and transplanted in July. On the day a cure is here, Dom says that it will truly be a day made in heaven for everyone. 20 years. I've been living with type 1 diabetes for 21 years. And just to think, Dom, there's been so many things that have changed in the last 20 years. Like when we think about life as a whole, not only our lives, but like the lives of everyone globally, so many things have altered the makeup of how things are handled.
Yeah.
And you being a world traveler today, even when we think back like 20 years ago, not until 9/11, there was no TSA.
Yeah.
There was no Homeland Security.
Nope.
And today with those things, like we're able to not only be accommodated in flight and in travel, but I mean, we're also more protected and secure.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice positive change for sure. You know, now I have the ability to say, hey, I actually can't go through this scanner. Like I need to, have the handheld scanner, or, I have my travel card. So, sometimes it's easier. They'll just scan my hands and then put the slip through the machine, and it's not as much as a hassle anymore. Before, when I was younger, my mom would tell me, they were always going through my bags because, the needles, I didn't have a pump back then. So anytime, a sharp object, it was always a big thing, having to go to another corner and they're ripping out all your stuff from your luggage. And now it's, have your travel card. Okay, this makes sense. My insulin, my pump, and the TSA agents, they're all aware of it too, which is super helpful. They automatically know what it is. And so it just makes traveling ease. And I am a regular, so a lot of the TSA agents kind of know who I am now too.
She's a regular in every global trend-setting marketplace throughout the world. Like, she's the trendsetter.
Trying to get there for sure.
I'm definitely trying to be like you when I grow up. Yes. Being diagnosed, what were you, 6, 7 years old?
7, yeah.
7 years old when you were diagnosed, first or second grade, one of them. Wow.
Yeah.
Were you in school at the time?
I was in school. In fact, no one in my family knew even what diabetic symptoms looked like. I just remember getting like really sick for about 2-3 days. You know, the common thirst, lethargic. I lost so much weight. And it's funny, the night that I actually didn't even go to the hospital. So back then I was a member of Kaiser. And so they had these like urgent care type situations. And my mom was like, I'm going to take you to the doctor tomorrow. And I'll really never forget it. My grandma was like, no, like, I think you should take her tonight. And went to Kaiser. And they were like, we can't figure out anything until we do blood work. And so I went to go do blood work, and I actually fainted there, right then and there. I remember like them waking me up with like the salts. And next thing I know, I'm in a room, and all I remember hearing is one of the nurses like, oh my gosh, her sugar is 825. And from there, it was just rush for going to Children's. And, I don't know what that means with blood sugar of 825. I'm like, okay, like, all right, what's next? But my mom, while she didn't understand, fully, but you hear the words diabetes, and all I remember her is saying, calling everyone, her life's going to change forever. Her life's going to change forever. And I'm like, they just can't give me any medicine and I'm good to go. Until, the days after of education, nutrition, medicine, which when I think about it, wasn't that lengthy. I mean, I had maybe 30 minutes of nutrition education. It was, maybe a folder of documents. Here's what you should stay away from. Here's what you should eat. And, then they go over the medicines with you. Back then I was mixing Novolog, and all I remember is like cloudy and clear. That's all I remember from being that young. That's how they explained it to me. And being sent home.
Yeah, that would be like regular and in pH.
Exactly. So long ago, I didn't even remember that, but yeah, exactly.
And you probably were on a sliding scale.
I was on a sliding scale. I had it pinned to the fridge, and the constant checking your blood sugar, pricking your finger. But I will say I do remember, I've always been pretty independent, even as young as 7. I wanted everyone to be hands off. Like the first week, my mom being a mom, she's like, I'm going to draw your insulin for you. I'm going to, of course she's responsible for making my meals, but, everything else, I was just like, I want to do it. And so, yeah, that was the beginning to this lifelong fun journey.
I want to take you back to being a 7-year-old child. Being 7 years young, not 7 years old. As you said, you were independent, meaning you were mature. You wanted to do things on your own, handle your business, even at a young age. At 7 years young, though, to hear that you had diabetes, my first thought would be, okay, where's the Band-Aid? Where's the pill, tablet? What do I have to do to correct this?
Yeah.
Did you have that thought?
No, honestly, no. And I will say it didn't hit me until maybe I went back to school. And then, there's those differences where it's like, everyone gets to go to the cafeteria right away, but I have to make a pit stop to the nurse's office. But I will say from the beginning, I accepted it. The only time I didn't accept it is whenever I had a low, and my mom loves like sharing this story. I would get into this like hostile denial every time. It was just like, when you're having a low, it's super dangerous. So, moms, grandma, they're all like, sit down and I'm going to bring you your juice. And I'm just like, leave me alone. Like, here's a banana, here's this, here's that. No, I'm going to drink this juice by myself. Those were really the only two times when I was just like, okay, I am a bit different. But I truly accepted it from the beginning.
It's truly unexplainable, unless you're speaking with another person who actually lives with it. The altered mind, I call it, when your blood sugars are dropping severely, even when they're high for a certain amount of time, it does alter your mind and the brain activity, the ability to focus. So even today, myself, living with diabetes for 21 years, when my blood sugar is low, like low, someone asks me a question, I'm always good.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, I'm always good, or I'm like, I got this, or it's near impossible to relinquish that. It's like something we've trained.
Yeah.
It's become so much a part of us. It's like innate, natural ability to, even though we should reach out that olive branch, but we can't, like our mind. So it's almost like, if we have that partner or that family member, friend who does know our natural abilities, what we do instinctually, like they can see that. Like, nope. No matter what, Dom. No matter what, Dom.
I'm gonna go do this for you because I know you're not fine.
I may catch all of the lashes from this, but right here in this moment, you're gonna drink this juice.
Exactly. Yeah. Even, and at least when I was younger, I know now I've kind of have a control on it. Not kind of, I have a control on it, but those symptoms when you're low, for me, it's I got it, but it's also, I'm going to have an attitude. I'm going to give you like a hangry attitude because like you said, that altering of the brain, your mood will just change. It can be a lot. It can be a lot, especially for your loved ones around you.
It is a lot. And then the after effects, you're like, why didn't you do this?
Right. Or, oh my gosh, did I say that? Like,
I recorded with someone a few months ago, and she had the craziest story about having a low at work, where she was like yelling at her coworker, and she's a respiratory therapist, where she was like saying to one coworker, like, I'll bite your and like, like she even yelled at her supervisor, like she was like, where's so-and-so at? I'll smack that bitch. Like,
oh my goodness. Yeah. And she couldn't control that.
Couldn't control it. And she was like, I truly didn't feel that way towards my supervisor.
Yeah. And and then I'm sure she was like almost horrified when she heard, like, that's the thing she was saying. You just can't control it. The mind is definitely an interesting phenomenon, how it works.
Imagine this. Do you remember the show Big Brother? I don't even know if it's still around.
It might be. I'm not sure, but I do remember it.
Imagine having that household, that Big Brother with a bunch of insulin dependent people. Like that would be crazy. Like we're all on camera and you can see how our lives are changed and altered when our blood sugars drop. Like
or high.
That may give the media, society, a better picture of what we go through, the intricacies of living with chronic health conditions such as type 1 diabetes. Besides that, I would never want another person to really understand or
No,
feel what we were going through.
no, it's not a great feeling. And it's truly a job. It's truly a job. And you're ever still learning every day too. You know, as we get older and our bodies are changing, so does, how our medicine affects us and how it affects our blood sugars. And, when I am traveling and going through the airport, I can almost guarantee my blood sugar is going to drop by the time I get to that gate. So it's, making sure I have my snacks, or, even just being outside in these 100+ degree weather, like it affects every little thing affects it. And it can vary day by day, month by month, year by year. And again, people don't have that bird's eye view of those little things. And even sometimes ourselves, it's just like, wait, I've been doing the same thing every day this week. And now my sugar is taking this peak up high, or now it's taking this dip down low. And it's just like one little thing, or it could have been the same thing, but now there's something different going on in your body that you don't even know about yet. And it's causing, a different reaction.
Diabetes in itself is a variable, because you just spoke about multiple variables, just walking through the airport.
Yeah.
The heat, that variable. Like diabetes in itself is a variable. And like I said, like most people do not understand that. Even when we speak to our medical professionals, people such as endocrinologists, they're like, in our younger days, they just knew that we were doing something wrong.
Absolutely. Which was so frustrating.
Not knowing so many things have changed and altered our bodies.
Yep.
Just taking man-made insulin, having to focus on these numbers and these drastic changes within us. Like, how can you tell a human, an able-bodied person? That's what we all felt like. We were these able-bodied persons, like especially as teens and our young 20s, like we were bionic. Yeah. Nothing was going to stop us. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
That we could see physically. Because, like you said, you were 7 years old. You took this on.
The world would continue to go around,
Right.
That's had to be played.
Like, Dom, seriously, you were 7 years old, being able to take on and take control of diabetes. There was nothing that could stop you. If you were able to handle that at that young age, I mean, you went through elementary school, middle school, high school. Come on now. Like, I couldn't see anything stopping you. Nothing. But there are roadblocks that were placed in front of us.
For sure.
Just another obstacle we had to get through. We had to fight through, right?
Yeah. Diabetes is the gift that keeps giving. It does not stop. So
keeps giving.
It does not stop.
Technology has advanced, has helped us. But it as much as technology has advanced and it has helped us, it has not paused or stopped our minds and our bodies from the worries that are living with diabetes.
Yeah. In fact, it's funny we talk about technology. Of course, definitely appreciate and thankful to those scientists and researchers who have made these things possible. And then, a lot of you talk to a lot of people and you tell people, oh yeah, this makes this easier, but you still have a lot of work to do with it, right? Like, with the pump, it's thinking about how many carbs you're going to eat. Is my pump charged? Is it charged before I go to the grocery store? Do I have enough insulin on board? Is my transmitter going to expire when I'm out, while I'm away? There's still things you're thinking about. And I actually took a break from my pump last week. It was just, and I went to injections myself. I have emergency pack of insulin pens. And because I just needed a break, I'm just, that it just took that one more time of me getting hooked to the door handle. And I was just like, you know what? I need a break from this. The poking and, the burning of the site sometimes when it's been there a little bit too long, it gets overwhelming. And so while these technological advancements have been, awesome, like I'm still looking for the cure. Like I want the cure.
Right. You had a chance to free your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Clear out a little bit of that clutter that is the algorithms, and that do help us.
Yeah.
For a few days, you became your own algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say it was super helpful. And then, after a while, I was just like, all right, you're back on. I'm ready for you again. Because you do notice the difference, right? It's like, okay, like I was a bit elevated, for 2-3 days, versus, my pump puts me in a tighter control, because it's always talking to the Dexcom, right? But just having that opportunity to just take a little break from that was super, super beneficial.
It is, let's say back in April, I had to get multiple MRIs done. And it had been years since I took a break from an insulin pump, maybe like 3 or so. And leading up to that day, I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But the day of, or the day before, is when I actually had to like remove my devices.
Yeah.
And I was okay. Like it was more of a diabetes put this mental strain and burden on me. Like,
yeah.
I felt as though
function without it.
I felt that way. Like I need this technology.
Yeah.
But then I thought, no, Will, you don't need it. It's useful. It helps you. But you are way more advanced in your own knowledge of diabetes and care than, say, 20 years ago.
Just about to say that. We've been doing this for 20 years. So it's just like, we know the OG practices.
We do.
We know how to go back to the calculations. Like the pump doesn't need to do it for us.
It doesn't. We have those mental spreadsheets. Those Excel documents are in our head. They're embedded in us.
Yeah.
And that's why, like when we know newly diagnosed people, or we meet newly diagnosed people, like we're quick to like, those spreadsheets flash before our eyes. Like we know what we can do to help better them, mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And that's why I say us living with this chronic health condition, our olive branch is always extended, forever extended to thy neighbor, to the community, to anyone that may be going through this burden. And Dom, I did want to retract and go back to, again, that 7-year-old girl, because you did mention something about going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation with many people who were diagnosed at young ages, even people who were diagnosed in their teens, having to go back into school. At any time, did you feel as though like going back into that setting that all eyes were on you? Like,
for sure. I feel like it's a bit of a running joke in the DMV, Jonan, right? We're roasting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, obviously there wasn't the Dexcom and there wasn't the insulin pump. So visibly, nothing looked off. I didn't have any extra, tech on me. But it's like when you are at recess, right? And it's like, dang, I need to slow down because my sugar is dropping. And thankfully I've heard that there are a lot of people who aren't, aware of when they're having a low blood sugar. But thankfully I've never been that one of those people. And so it's just like, I have to cut that short. But honestly, a lot of my friends were just curious. What is it? Oh, my grandma got that, and, even back then you don't know to explain that. No, it's a bit different. It's just like, you have an old people disease, though. That's what, it was considered as. But that young, though, kids are more curious than being, a bit more bullied. It was myself who, and this didn't really come until like high school. It wasn't other people. It was myself who was kind of like, I have to hide this. And I don't want people to know that, I do sometimes have to take a break, or, I'm not feeling good because I wanted to drink strawberry milk with y'all. And, I didn't take enough insulin to cover that. So now I'm not feeling good. And so now I can't hang out with you guys after school. I got to go home because now I'm tired. So it really was myself as I got older who kind of, separated myself per se.
Right. It was almost like the only way you could feel any sense of normalcy was to basically give in and give up on your own body.
Yeah.
Like that risk versus reward.
Yeah. Which is what happens in college. Definitely wanted to live a normal college life. And for one, that's when I really started declining the pump, even though it was super recommended. Like, hey, your A1C, I guarantee you will drop a couple numbers down. It will put you in super tight control. And it's just like, I'm not walking around campus with this machine on me. Like, are you crazy? Or, learning the effects of alcohol, right? And it's just like, well, I'm going to drink alcohol because, my friends are doing it and I don't want people looking at me different. And so it did have some negative impacts, right? Which prompted me to, get on the pump, but having that sense of deniability and wanting to feel apart does have, did have negative consequences for myself, because I definitely, for a point in time did neglect my health for sure.
I wouldn't say you neglected your health at all. I don't think we freely neglect our health. It's just a point of education.
Yeah.
That we're not truly gifted. Not given, that we're not gifted, meaning that it's something that we're able to truly learn and grow with, especially since you were diagnosed at such a young age.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever rejected it, because we always got to take it back to you being that 7-year-old child. Yeah. Even though you're now in college and out on your own and living life, you're still that 7-year-old child that was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, Dom. So
yeah,
I wouldn't put it on you at all, because when we think of other people who were given a sense of like any type of insecurities through life, like sometimes you can remove yourself from certain situations and move on with life.
Yeah.
Diabetes, you could never remove yourself from this situation.
Very true.
Even though mentally we told ourselves that, okay, well, you're 19, you're 20, 21 now, living with diabetes. They told you certain things could happen.
Yeah.
And certain things are inevitable.
Right.
But knowing your mental strength, your physical strength, your well-being, like everyone else is out here partying, living a life, like for real, we were living la vida loca.
Yeah. Yeah.
like yeah. Serious. And I don't see anything happening.
Right.
I mean, some days I do have to use the bathroom a lot more.
Right.
But that's just diabetes, right?
Exactly.
That was your friend's grandma, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, your friend's grandma's still seems okay.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm young, I'm vibrant, and at the same time, I'm vigilant.
Exactly.
So if something were to happen, I could attack it.
Yeah.
And free myself of it. I can change it. I could alter it.
Right.
But when we look at the end result of things, I have to take a breath with this, because if we were actually given the measurable steps in education from day one, and it was continuously poured into us and shown to us, and we were gifted that information, many of the things that have occurred to us through this life of living with diabetes did not have to occur.
It could have been avoided.
It could have been avoided, and it wasn't on us.
Yeah.
Truly, Dom.
Yeah.
It was not your fault. You were a baby.
Yeah.
You were a baby raising a baby. You were given the infancy of diabetes that you had to raise.
Yeah.
Not only were you walking around carrying this, whatever was your favorite doll or stuffed animal or whatever, but you were also given this heavy load and burden.
Like kid.
Like, Dom, you're 7 years old, but now you have to climb Mount Everest with an infant.
Yeah.
And that infant will never, ever grow up.
No.
Diabetes will never, ever grow up.
Yep.
Sad to say, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
You just got to learn it.
You got to learn it, learn your body, and like you said, like do your own research. Because it even now, I mean, I've finally found a endocrinologist who really, I feel like, meets my needs. But I've gone through 2 endocrinologists outside of, as my pediatrics endo. And it's been a struggle, getting them to understand, what it is you're going through and things that may be affected, and them just, not really listening or taking the time to even find resources that would and could be beneficial to you. It's definitely a struggle.
Definitely a struggle. So, Dom, I do want to just take a quick journey through 20 years, because I must gift you your flowers, because not often in any space are we given the opportunity to truly be unapologetically ourselves. Dom, like I said, I must give you these flowers because you were once a 7-year-old child whose parents, family, I'm not even sure, do you have siblings?
I do.
Siblings also had to walk this walk with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And when I look at myself in the mirror, sometimes I must wake and take stride with the affirmations of life, knowing that, Will, you made it.
Yeah.
Dom, you made it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely need to take the time to even just think about that sometimes too. For a while I hadn't thought about it till today, before coming on the podcast, because just like, dang, like it's you've been through some stuff, girl, So yeah, it is important to take the time to reflect on that, because so many people haven't made it, and so it's a big deal. And definitely commend you for having this platform so people can be unapologetically themselves. It's a great thing that this is here for people.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
While you were just talking, I drew an arrow and a line, and then I wrote down maze, and I put a circle around it, and then I wrote down Frankie Beverly, because as I go through this journey, I always think of like titles for these episodes. And I said, Dom's been through a lot that I haven't even tapped into yet. And that's just from me seeing your stories.
Yeah.
But Frankie Beverly and Maze, there's a song, Joy and Pain. You know, with sunshine, there comes rain.
Yeah.
And today I see your sunshine. I do. Even though before we got on, we were talking about the rain that did come through.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the winner right there.
Serious. Dom, people in this space, they don't know you. I don't truly know you, but I do see you trend setting and jet setting and traveling around the world and doing certain things that just 5 years ago may have not been an option.
Yeah.
Because you've gone through these 20 years. You've hopped in the rings of the Floyd Mayweather, the Mike Tyson, and come on, you're in the DMV area.
Yeah.
Tank.
Yeah.
Yes, Tank. We're in this area. Nothing's stopping him today at all.
Yeah.
Nothing is stopping you today at all, considering the life you've lived.
Yeah.
This is your ring. Nothing, no one that steps up to bout with you and throws on those gloves can knock you down at all.
Can't let them. Cannot let them.
Cannot let them. Let's talk about it. These 20 years. 7 years old, going back to school, all eyes on you, like Tupac said. like literally.
Yeah.
I think about everything that was said, maybe like the conversations that were had while you were in the hospital, while you were at home. Teachers were having with children, like Dominique's coming back to school. Dominique went through these trials.
Mm-hmm.
Like things that you couldn't even come to bat for at the time.
Yeah. Couldn't defend, couldn't control. Yeah, going back to that, like feeling independent and wanting to be independent, and teachers especially kind of just want, and I get it, right? They, back then, can't even imagine how much accurate information surrounding diabetes, what that even looked like. But, for them, it's like this little girl who once was, quote unquote healthy, right? Coming back with this disease. She needs to be handheld. We need to coddle her. And I remember like that, aside from, thinking about the kids and everything, like, I think that was the most frustrating thing. To the point where, of course, like when I went to middle school, that has to be shared, that I have this illness, and, I have to go to the nurse's office for lunch. But it wasn't something that I wanted like all the teachers to know, because that feeling of like helplessness and coddling was just not comfortable. It's like, and the public display of, oh no, we can't give Dom this Snickers bar for, kids appreciation because she can't have sugar. And so now it's like, well, now I don't get a cool goodie bag, and watching the other kids enjoy their things, when it's just like, well, no, I can have sugar. I just have to monitor how I'm eating it and make sure things are in place before I eat it. And so those are the things that, people don't understand. And that was more shameful to me than anything, back then as a kid. It wasn't until I would say high school, and that's because I of course had to go to the nurse's office to do my injections and do my blood sugar. And the nurse was a type 1 diabetic herself. And she actually encouraged me to join the swim team, where then I learned her daughter had type 1 diabetes. And that's when I was like, okay, so I can do sports. And there are other people my age, because I think before then, I didn't know anyone my age who had diabetes, or at least was public about it, So it was just like, until then, I was just in my own little world, no one I knew in my family had it. And so I felt like I was just navigating it alone. And so really wasn't until high school where I was just like, okay, I can do this, and this is okay, and this is fun again, right? Like, I enjoyed now going to the nurse's office to do what I had to do, and then, going back to a normal high school student. And so those 4 years were great. And then college came. And so, now I'm not seeing the endo as much, right? Because I go to school in Jersey now, home is in Maryland. And, my roommate, of course, actually, all my friends knew I had diabetes. I wasn't ashamed to share that at all. In fact, they were more, Dom, are you good? Like, Dom, you got this? Dom, you got that? To the fact where, whenever I got sick, which was a lot in college, they were always there. I will say my support system, they are amazing. Shout out to all of my friends, of course, my family, like everyone. I have an amazing support system. But my friends during my college years really, really held it down, and they're going to watch this and they're going to know what I'm talking about. And that made me, we talked about not using the word neglect, but it made me, like, okay, let's lock back in on this. Like, my issue was never not taking insulin. My issue was testing my blood sugar. It's like, I got to stop, pause, and prick my finger. Like, that's annoying. It's like 3 minutes of my day I'm not going to get back. And so that's where my issue lies. And of course, we know you can't take insulin blindly. I'm taking insulin assuming my blood sugar may be at 130 when it's really at 175. And so that's where those like complications came in. But yeah, I've definitely had some highs in this journey and some lows for sure.
The joy and the pain.
Yeah.
First off, I must, as I give you your flowers, gift the flowers to your family, your friends, your peers, your family that grew on to you in college, those people that had your back, that still today have your back. And might I say, from DC to Jersey, if I knew you then, if you would have just knocked on my door
right there in Philly,
I was right there in between.
Yeah,
look, my door would have been so far. Look, I was right there, but along those corridors. But yes, that support system that you had, they are everything. I don't think that our people truly understand how much we adore them. Like, seriously, like, I know that there were nights, there were days where someone picked me up. Who picked me up? I don't know.
Yeah.
Those days when I woke up and EMT were next to me. Someone made that call.
Yeah.
That was out of love, pure love.
Yep.
At the time, I might have been like, what is going on? Why is it like, I got this? No,
We know.
we don't. So yeah,
Yeah.
to our support system, thank you. Thank you so much, our support system.
For sure.
And now we step into Dom at, let's say Dom at 20 years old.
Yeah. Dom at 20. Let's see, about to graduate and really navigate the world on her own, right? Now mom's not dealing with insurance anymore, right? Like it's me. I have a big girl job now. And so I have my own health, my own health insurance. And so now I'm fighting with, pharmaceutical companies and the pharmacy and stuff like that. And also just trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, right? Like I graduated with a degree in human resources. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do something HR related, but like, what is that? And am I coming back home? Am I staying up, up north? And so figuring out that stuff, what was definitely fun. And I ultimately decided to stay in Jersey. Worked in New York, which was, such a great experience. And really I will say my 20s is really when that sense of like shame, deniability, like all of that went away. Because now you're seeing, oh, there are a lot of people in this community, like, and it became not so taboo to talk about. And also realizing that when you're in, the big girl world, which I, consider it now for myself, you kind of have to share these things so people are aware, because it only, helps you in the long run. And so, yeah, got my degree, started working, started making my own money and figuring out what was important to me, right? And so, got the travel bugs pretty early. And I will say my travel bug probably started back as a like a young adolescent, like a preteen. My uncle, he is in the military or was in the military. And so with him moving to different states and different places, pretty much yearly or every 2 years, I got the opportunity to go to those places. And he did everything. We did the Hawaii island trips to the camping trips. And so I feel like that's why I'm so like layered, because, a lot of people, they're like, oh, you give off like pretty girl bougie, but then like sometimes you're like fishing. I'm like, yeah, like I love it all.
You just love to have fun.
I love to have fun and be free and learn. I mean, these things are learning opportunities. Like, social media, you show what you want people to see. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, like people are seeing the fun of it all, and it is fun. It's amazing. It's great, but I learn a lot. I learned a lot about myself and what I can do. Like we talked about, not giving up and keep going and keep fighting. Like, I'm doing that in these situations too, and pushing myself and challenging myself. And that's a big deal for me. Not being complacent is such a big deal for me. Even right now, I'm in a space where I feel like I'm there, right? Like a bit complacent, like I have my job, I'm traveling, but I'm like, all right, I need to push to that next level. And so right now I'm like thinking about what does that look like for me? Because while it's like you look and you're like, Dom got a lot going on. And it's just like, it's time to like push that next level. And so not letting this, disease, get in the way is like super important. But, also having that balance of like managing it is also super important.
Look, you've lived 20 years with type 1 diabetes. Always push it past the limit. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Push it past the limit. There's no limit. If you can live 20 years with man-made insulin, come on now. As dependent as we are on that, then you can do anything beyond borders. Seriously.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
go ahead. You're good.
I was gonna kind of like tap into last year. I mentioned it earlier, but I found out my kidneys were like failing. And that kind of goes into, we were talking about, sometimes doctors not doing their due diligence. I didn't know that. I've been going to appointments, things like that. Never once mentioned, hey, your creatinine levels are looking a bit off. None of that. It wasn't until I went to the ER for something completely unrelated. I was having chest issues, like breathing issues, and they called it out like, hey, this looks off. Are you on dialysis? And I'm like, whoa, that's dialysis. What's going on? And so that was an eye opener to also make sure that I'm advocating for myself, because as I thought about it, it was just like, oh, like I was having, trouble breathing, but like I noticed even going up a flight of steps, I was getting a bit tired. And my levels were all out of whack. And I was just like, like I'm just out of shape. Like I'm an avid gym goer, but during those months I hadn't really been going. And so always listening to your body is super important. And it seemed like once I got told that, everything kind of just like went crashing down. So honestly, all last year, I feel like I was just, out of it while, getting tested. And thankfully, my sister cousin, she gifted me with her kidney. She was a match, and we were able to have a successful surgery. And I feel like she gave me another, chance at life, and forever indebted to her. But yeah, that was last year for sure. It was a painful year. And actually in 10 days will be my 1-year transplant anniversary.
Biggest congrats on that.
Yes. No sign of rejection. Everything has been great. The healthiest I feel like I have been in years. Feeling, looking, doing. And so I will say, we were talking about joy and pain. Like last year was full of pain for sure. Just feeling sick all the time, and just, why this again, right? It's just like, you already gave me type 1. Now I got to deal with this. Like, dang, like how much more you want me to fight?
So how long, because you said that it all happened last year. So from that day you were in the hospital for the chest pain, to when you got your transplant, how much time in between?
Super quick, like thank goodness. So that the hospital visit was in March. I got my transplant in July, and that goes back to that support system. As soon, it was something I wasn't even going to share. It's like, how do you even share that? Hey, y'all, like I need a kidney. In fact, if my mom wasn't there with me, she wouldn't, I don't even know when I would have like told her that. Because I've just always been, I don't want to burden other people. Mm-hmm. And so, she was there, so she heard all of that. But it was just like, no, Dom, like we were talking about those olive branches in our support system, like you have these things and these people who love you in place. And it wasn't even, for me, it wasn't even I'm asking for this. It was just like, hey, y'all, like, this is what I found out. So this is what I'm going to be going through. So if I'm a bit MIA, it's because I'm just trying to figure things out. And it's like, not once did I ask any one of my family members. It was just like, oh, y'all heard what Dom said? Right. And immediately people lined it up left to right.
That's how it should be. My dad has been on dialysis for almost 6 years now.
Yeah.
No one's lining up. Only my younger brother, he's lined up.
Yeah.
But my dad is at a stage in his life where I think he's okay and more complacent because he's close to 70 years old.
Yeah.
He's not, I don't even like today, he's not even worried about a transplant.
Yeah. Not interested. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. It's his life. But I think about like 5-6 years ago when he first found out, and
Yeah.
no one lined up other than my
Yeah.
younger brother, and he was a match and everything. I have a cousin who's 28 years old, and she's waiting for a kidney transplant. She's been on dialysis now she started last year in June.
Mm.
Did you ever go through dialysis? Because that was a 4-month period.
Yeah, thankfully, no.
Wow.
My
Look,
nephrologist was like, let's see.
that's amazing.
Yeah. And every time, going to an appointment for more blood work or, going for stress tests and all of that, they're like, are you on dialysis? And I'm like, no. And like, people are shocked. And even now I can say that I still haven't even like, when it comes to like the dialysis piece, like it's amazing that I didn't have to go through that. Like it's favorable that I didn't have to go through that. So.
Yeah, I asked that because like everyone I know that's on dialysis receive some form of like social security, disability, income. But I'm like, you went straight from like straight to transplant.
Yeah.
Like you were able to avoid so many things.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
And I feel like God knew that, and that wasn't like that just wasn't for me.
Look,
Like
God knew that kidney had to go.
I was gonna fight for those 4 or 5 months and get the kid. Like that dialysis just wasn't in my cards, and forever grateful for that because I know it's not fun.
And how does it how often do you get your creatinine levels checked?
So now that it's closer to a year, it'll be like every 6 months. But in the beginning, transplant, I was going weekly, and then it went to bi-weekly, and then it went to once a month, or then it went to like virtual. Like now I'm on virtual, but since my year is coming up, I know obviously still doing the blood work. Hopefully this will be my last like in-person visit to the actual transplant clinic, and then I can transfer over back to a regular nephrologist who I will for sure be changing, because obviously the original one did not catch any of this, or maybe did and just, I don't know, felt like, I don't know what happened there.
Look, I'm just going to keep using the word amazing because I think of like even like today, like you're a young woman, you have the scar from transplant, but when I think of it, it's probably the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, I love my scar.
Like,
I'm sure you've seen it on the socials. Like, I honestly, from day one, I'm like, all right, we back in the crop tops. Like I'm not afraid to show it. I think it makes me.
right.
It's a part of my story. And why be ashamed of it? Like it's truly a testimony in itself without me even having to explain anything.
It's been truly amazing. Dom, this journey with you on the Chronically Well podcast, it's been in the making for some time.
Yes.
I've wanted to sit down and have a conversation with you for a while. Look, and that's beyond me having a conversation with you to try to figure out like what's the best crab cake in the DMV. Because I am a crab cake connoisseur. I travel.
Are you?
Like I've been to Papa's and
Yeah.
Jimmy's. Like
Gotta go to Baltimore for sure when you're closer to Baltimore. So,
Right. But yes, before we go on this journey, I did have one question for you.
Yeah.
Because you've lived the last 20 years with type 1 diabetes. The last year, my internet connection said it was unstable. The last year with chronic kidney disease, and you now have well, you did 4 months. Almost the last year with a transplanted kidney. But all of this stems from diabetes, right?
Yep.
So on the day, this is something you spoke about within our first 30 seconds. And I was like, hold off. I didn't say it, but I was saying, on the day, Dom, let me speak to you. On a day, Dominique, that a cure is here, meaning a cure that is readily available for everyone, a cure that we don't need even to take things such as anti-rejection meds.
Yeah.
And it's available for everyone. On that day, Dominique, you're fully cured of everything that diabetes has gave you over the years. On that day, what do you do?
Ooh, that is a tough one. That is a tough one. Whew. Well, for one, we making the first stop to whoever gotta do, what is it, surgery, implant, whatever it is. But honestly, that one has gotten me. Honestly,
It's okay. I think about it often. The first time someone asked me that, my heart just stopped. And I said, I would just drop to my knees and
yeah,
just thank God. Like, even though we have this community that we've built, I would never lose these friendships.
right, right.
We have something else to talk about then.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think about the burden, the time,
The money.
I say to myself all the time, like, when I'm on my deathbed, seriously, who's going to give me back the time I need to share with my loved ones, to share my legacies, to tell them where all of my valuables are, like all of that, to give them hope for the future.
Yeah, it almost, like when you said that, and I'm like, whoo, it's because like my heart is like,
I know,
because it almost seems like it's like not attainable and like impossible. And so it's just like, to even think of a world like that is just like, oh my gosh, we're finally here, for one. And it's like, wow, like you're telling me I can get up and like the only thing I have to worry about is putting on my glasses. Like I don't have to check my pump, see what's going on, what happened in the last 24 hours, or, you know, I can literally eat whatever. Like if I want to go eat 2 cupcakes, I can do, like, you know, it's those little things that we, you know, not us, but other people might take for granted. And just being able to live freely and not having to think about all these external other factors. It will honestly be a day made in heaven, honestly. And so many people are going to benefit from it, not just us, but our loved ones too. Because now they no longer have to think about, you know, the burdens that we're facing and dealing with, you know. And yeah, you talk about the time and, you know, for me, it's like the money. Like I do my expenses monthly and I'm just like, medication, supplies, it adds up, doctor's visits. Like this is not a disease. This is not an affordable disease. It's not, you know, I just saw a post earlier today that, someone from our community got kicked off her insurance. She can't afford her insulin. She's rationing her insulin, with where I've been, and it's just like, to think that that won't be a thing anymore is just, I can't wait.
Diabetes, it stops nowhere. Like it never stops.
Yeah.
Like seriously.
Yeah.
Dom, I truly appreciate you for joining me on this journey that is the Chronically Well podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you.